In. Today, we have with us Tina Meeks. Ladies and gentlemen, Tina, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Pasha. Good to see you today.
Always the perfect day. Thank you for joining us. Real quick, tell them how you got the name Touchdown.
It's my success in collections and finding money where people don't expect to find it in businesses and from my career path. So, at a networking meeting, the guy goes, "Oh, so you provide touchdowns for businesses?" And I said, "Well, yeah, actually, that's kind of about right." So it's relatable, right? It's
Yeah,
relatable.
yeah. Especially with your business name being Scory, have a
Hmm.
score in there. So
Exactly.
I want to start off like this with this one. I think it's kind of interesting slash ironic that the cure to a problem, if you were looking at it from the problem's perspective itself, can actually be seen as an illness, a disease, or a disorder. So the supporters of the problem and or the problem itself could see the solution as the problem, right?
Very much so.
Okay. So how do leadership in the community and business have many parallels? So to move to a sustainable business model from maybe a legacy one, or to help the community go to becoming more sustainable, may require that same shift in perspective where the solution for a period of time might be seen as the disease or disorder by the issue supporters, right?
Very much. Yes.
So you have some specialty in leadership. How give me a high level overview of leadership's effect.
Um, well, I mean, a leadership's role, not everybody can do it. It takes a lot of patience. So I use a lot of analogies in my world.
Okay,
It
let's
has
go.
helped, with my training and my learning and understanding. But it's just like being a parent or parent of a fur baby or even human babies. You're nurturing and guiding and supporting and doing it all unconditionally without judgment and fear from them, right? So you have to take
Mhm.
it from that perspective. But then there's also boundaries and stuff that may be different and different. You don't want to enable, but you also don't want to treat one employee or team member than another differently. Everybody's got to be treated with fairness and equality, right? That's part of the deal. So it's a hard thing because not all leaders are 100% every single day, and there's challenges, financial stresses. The industry in itself can really make a difference. The team member, your employees underneath you don't understand the pressure you may be under with your higher
Mhm.
leadership. So those are all the things that it makes it tougher in a leadership role. They say, when you climb to the top, it's easier. Well, I will tell you that's not correct.
No.
There's more pressure and stressors and things like that. So you learn to relate and kind of find your ways. And every leader has to find their way. Every leader. So no two leaders are going to be exactly alike. You're going to have your different ways of how you speak to your team, what they call your delivery. That's one thing I've learned. But motivation is a big power. But I use analogies. I use analogies and sense of humor. That tends to break a lot of molds and also helps people relate to what I'm trying to teach them.
Right. So thanks for sharing that. Now, would you say historically, legacy, current state, could it be said that leadership style is primarily transactional in most cases? Transactional leadership style? What is a
Mm,
transactional leadership style?
what, putting every leadership kind of in the same A to B flow?
Well, let's split the overall hierarchy into two categories: transactional and transformative. And I say let's
Ah,
do that because we're going to need to embrace as that business, that company, that small business that's looking to grow, break free from the, or get that breakthrough into the next level of business. Maybe they hit a roadblock. Maybe they're looking to just optimize processes. Maybe the community is looking to do better or change, but they're still embracing what is keeping them, what they've been doing before, what they're used to, their comfort zones. So that's going to be kind of sort of the difference between a transactional leader and a transformative leader. Let's give a little introduction from your perspective on what a transactional leader is.
Okay, so transactional leader is kind of what I call like a mid-level manager. It's the one that's managing the day-to-day, keeping things flowing, keeping the processes going. The other is more of the higher decision maker, the one that's kind of like from the airplane looking down, making sure everything is running correctly,
Mhm.
looking at the overall 5-year plan, 5-year goals, what can they do, that kind of thing. That's how I define it. Is that how you are
I,
defining it as well?
yeah, I accept your analogies there. It's great. The key elements you pointed out was the long term versus short term consideration factors, and it's kind of like that analogy of the car riding down the road, right, at night with its high headlights on. You don't see a mile down in front of you, but you can still get there, right? By
Right.
seeing the 100 yards that your headlights light up in front of you. Let's stop for a moment and just look at that. Sounds great. What risks actually present themselves on the roadway in the darkness beyond your headlight beams between you and your destination? See, now we have recognized the entitlement of a new cultivation in our transactional leadership. If we
Hmm.
can start getting them to consider that risk mitigation factors, right? Not only does it help produce a less toxic environment for employees, a more innovative situation, right? So tell us from your perspective, help us understand the power of the motivator mindset there to get the transactional people, right? The people that are used, that are locked into that system, to maybe start to see the value of shifting the mindset to transformative.
Yeah, true. Good explanation. So yeah, you just have to, I mean, one, you got to wake up in a positive mindset every morning, no matter what. That's the number one goal. I learned that from my former co-partner at my previous job. It, he's I never seen that guy have a bad moment, bad day, and he wakes up positive every day. You don't let stress get to you. You just got to find your ways.
Mhm.
But definitely, if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, it's going to start your day off wrong. So you try to find ways to get your mindset correct. That's the one thing you do. Find whatever it is. Again, I use humor in everything. When it gets tough, I just throw a joke or throw an analogy out there, and it really just breaks the tension, puts us back in perspective, and things of that nature. And again, everybody is different, but sense of humor goes a long way. Well, a long way. I learned that long, long time ago. And there is a difference between, you know, power of motivation and power of position too.
Mm.
So you've got to that kind of, that those two alone are the core things of making sure that your staff doesn't feel like you're treating them like you're above them all the time. In leadership, in my leadership, I always wanted everyone to make sure that we were part of the team. We were one level. Even though I was their supervisor, we were one level. And I think that's how employees have to feel. You can't
Right.
make them feel like they are inferior from you, because they're really not. And it leads into, it takes a village. No leader can do the job by themselves. They need a team with them. So you need to learn to work with your team and get the best team that you can, that trust the processes, trust the system, follow the policies, and strive for work-life balance, less stress, and all that other stuff. It's a lot. It's not going to be every day 100%, of course not. Each industry is different, so It all depends. I know leadership is, some people say a lot of people leave their jobs not from the job, it's from their leader. And that's a very high percentage when you look at it.
Absolutely.
And that's something you need to really think about, having, my thing is I'm very compassionate leader, but I'm also a firm leader. Everybody has to be held accountable for their processes, their jobs. A lot of employers don't do cross training. They don't have multiple people to jump in when needed. Those are the kind of things, because you need to reduce that level of stress. Everybody should jump in, and that's what teamwork's all about. Strive for teamwork, and that's just, I know it's a lot. It says a lot, but it's true. It works. It really does work.
Yeah, no,
Mindset.
I think I agree with you, and I think that you highlighted some examples of concepts that would help with that risk mitigation in the darkness that lies before us on our journey. And I appreciate the reference to power of motivation versus power of position. I think a lot of people let the position go to their head, and the etymology of the word attitude is actually position. That's what attitude really means. So they have an attitude and they feel like they are the authority, right, in flesh, and they don't realize that the etymology of the word authority is just simply the book or the quote that settles the question. So yeah, one may absorb, retain, remember to recite the authority. They may have the authority in them, but it's never the person that's the official authority, right? So that
Right.
comes back to the issue of now you have the habit formed, been in this position 10 years, 20 years. We've been doing it this way 20 years, right? We've all had that boss that somebody somewhere in our life says, this is how we've done it for the last 20 years. And I'm actually the, for better or for worse, the one that tells them, well, 20 years ago, you couldn't send a picture on a cell phone. So obviously there's some better way to do some things, right? And then that either gets you a clap, an innovation perspective, or it gets you out the door. Roll the dice, but stand strong, right? For the truth.
Yeah,
So
very true.
what happens is that mold that they're in, right, is transactional. So now when you look at that short-term focus, the elephant in the room, poor leaders may prioritize short-term gains over long-term sustainability. So that means they're going to sacrifice the employee. They're going to sacrifice the long-term stability of the company, not seeing that far down the road, and this can result in decisions that benefit the company momentarily but harm its future prospects. And that's the same for the community as well, right? So
Yeah.
how do we take now? Here's a great question for you. Again, the illness sees the cure as the illness. So now if they're like looking at it, we've been doing this 20 years this way, just like in a community. Oh, our community's been like this forever. We can't, right? How do we take that sense of positive mindset and give it and develop a true positive mindset now in its place when they believe that they're being positive?
Yes, I have actually faced that in many of my career paths. Yep, someone does something manual, or they've been doing it for 30 years that way, or 20. It's going to be the delivery and how you approach the change,
Mhm.
right? One, make sure you're at the job for at least a year before you do anything like that. The main thing you should do when you go into a company, and again, you got what, 5 different generations, so you're working with different generations as well, that have different skill set, different mindset, things like that. So you take that into consideration. So you have to look at that way, observe, just
Mm,
do what is there currently, right? And then after you're there a while, kind of say, hey, I could probably help with this, or, depending on your relationship with your leader too. Some leaders are very receptive right away, but the ones that are pretty sticklers, give that some time. You got to develop some core foundation there in order to approach that. But it's going to be in your delivery and how you bring it up. I know when I have, and I've been down that road several times, I say, I know you've been doing it like that. If I can just ask them, hey, maybe we can do that, kind of, let's see if that works. Maybe that'll help save your life and give you a better work-life balance. That's
yep.
how my philosophy is. Because if I can stop you from working till 11, 12 at night, or having to miss your kid's graduation or birthday party. That is my thought process. My gosh, he does so much manual work, or he does so much manual work.
Mhm.
And then you just got to find the way to intertwine it in a very respectful way where it doesn't sound offensive or that you're trying to overstep or, trying to squash. Sometimes leaders too also feel like, and again, 5 generations, they feel like, oh no, they're going to protect the job because they don't want anybody to learn their job because they need to keep, stay a hold of that. And it does happen more when we get older, right? I'm hitting a generation of being the old lady on the block, so to speak. So you do have to be mindful. And one thing about a leader, you should always learn. Every day is a day of challenge to learn something new. If
Right.
you're not learning, if you're not learning something new every day, you're not advancing yourself. You're 10 years ago, you're 5 years ago, you're 2 years ago. You need to stay up with the times. It doesn't matter what you did 20 years ago. If you're saying that, that's old news. Like you said, stay up with
Conti-
the times or you're going to suffer. You will suffer. You might have been the rock star 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, but now you'll be run over because technology has advanced that fast.
Continuous improvement is a current
Mhm.
buzzword, and that's a great segue because Simon Sinek actually, one of we're both fans of. Simon Sinek tells a story about how the people at the job that come up with the warning, right? We need to do something about this or change this because to avoid this crisis or panic in the future. And they're like, shut up. This is what we pay this department over here for. They'll take care of it when it's no, you don't understand. It's going to be big. It's going to be 2008. I know it's 2005, but it's going to be 2008. We got to do something now, right? And they overlook them. Then the panic happens at the job or in the community or in the household. Then, let's say at work, for example, a team of people all working 30, 40 hours of overtime in a week to fix it. Simon Sinek gave this story where he said they get the plaque on the wall in the break room, right? The ones that stood up in the chaos. But the company and corporate America itself is programmed and has been this way for a long time to overlook and ignore the champions of change prior to the need for change being present, right? So that kind of comes into a transactional leader's weakness is resistance to change
Mhm.
because the ineffective leader might resist necessary changes, right? And that's going to have them hindering. That's going to hinder the company's ability to adapt, like you said, to evolving markets and or technologies, and or just prevent the pipe from blowing up that feeds the cooling system in the plant, and then the whole plant melts down, and we got a Chernobyl, right? So this can lead to a decline in competitiveness, basically, for communities,
Yeah.
businesses, families. So you deal heavily in finance. So with that on the table, right, that resistance to change and the risk that comes with resisting the change, as we just identified in brief, talk about overcoming the accounting stress and finance industry pressures related to remaining in a transactional mindset as far as leadership goes. It's kind of dangerous.
Very. If you are in a financial position and you're not a planner and you're not thinking of tomorrow, like for instance, I never live in today. I'm always living in tomorrow, next week, next month, right? That's like the cash forecasting mindset. What can I make healthier? What can I make better? What can I make more successful? What am I missing? What am I checking? Right? I'm a
Mhm.
proactive, not reactive. If you're in a reactive mode and as a financial person, yeah, let's check let's check a few things, because that means either you've like burned out because the mind just is not going anywhere anymore, or you just have to find other perspectives on things. It's very scary in a financial, I mean, our economy right now, everybody's got that question mark. They don't know what the future is going to hold right now. They don't know where things are going, the housing market, the interest rates, loans, credit cards, all kinds of things. Everybody is like hoarding at this point, right? Everybody's just like, no, I got to hold on to this,
Mhm.
hold on to this information. I got to hold on to this money. I got to hold on to this, to the point that, I was in single family property management during COVID, right? So my challenge was getting ahead of 8 months. At the time we were in COVID, 8 months at the time of lockdown. And here's me. Oh no, what do we do? Grab the bulls by the horn, put my caseworker hat on, and I want contacted 92 residents and reached out one by one. Me and the team got together and we did everything we could to try to get them assistance, trying to get them to work with us to get the assistance they needed during the moratorium, right? Because that was the
Right.
goal. We want to keep people in their homes. It didn't matter you couldn't get evicted, right? That was irrelevant. We all knew that. But the thing is what are you going to do when that moratorium lifted? That was my mindset. I was set 6 months down the road, 13 months down the road, 15, 18. It lasted longer than expected, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter. I wasn't looking at what today. I was looking at the next process. What's going to happen, right? So that's the way I looked at it. And that's the way I approached it with the residents. And they were more open and willing to be able to work. Like, even though a lot of people had this stigma of, oh, I don't have to pay my rent because the government just told me I don't have to. Well, did you read the fine print?
Right.
Because there was a document that was signed that basically said you can be, you have to make sure that this is valid in order for you to, stop paying your rent. Because then the unemployment was paying, I think, like up to $600 a week extra for those that had lost their job due to COVID. So you see what I mean? There was so much misconception out there during that time frame, and we won't get into that. But just to kind of give you what my financial brain was working on is, hey, let's get these people the funding they needed. The money was out there. You got to get A and B to match up. Let's make this happen. Owners of these homes have a mortgage to pay too, so those are the things that I thought of. I didn't look at what was happening at today. I was planning for the future, and that's how my mindset generally is. Like, on Sunday I'm planning for the week. I'm
Right.
already planning for the weekend. So that's my mindset, and I guess that's why I've been so good with finances in the financial health market, and always digging and looking for that needle in the haystack. What are we missing? Whether it was system processes, manual processes, utilizing the full capacity of a module, the right talent, the right skill set. See, that changes too. If you had somebody that was a rock star 10 years ago, but they're still doing manual processes, they're no longer your rock star. I promise you. They've got to advance. And if they're stuck at not wanting to advance and learn, unfortunately, they're going to end up being phased out, let go, or, they're going to just get frustrated and leave because they're still working 12 hours a day and not understanding why everybody's leaving at 8 hours a day, because they've learned to streamline their processes, or they were open to allow someone to help them streamline their processes.
Optimization, again, if they're transactional and they're firm and remaining the same, they're going to ignore, based on the psychology of projection and perception, they're going to ignore, cast out, avoid change. And then the people that have changed, like you brought up a great example of showcasing a lot of the technology of being a great leader. Um, you took upon yourself, right, to innovate, because one of the drawbacks to poor leadership is limited innovation and adaptivity, right? Adaptability. So in that travel journey with the headlights on the dark road, you saw ahead of time, wait, they're saying it's all good now, but it's probably not going to be 2 years from now. What can we do today, right? So the transactional leader would have stuck to the established processes, protocols, left the people out there stranded because the paperwork said, stay your course or whatever, right? Deal with it when it comes. We'll cross that bridge when we get there at that point. But the transformative leader in you said, no, we're going to encourage innovation and creativity, by the way. And you called 96 people ahead of time and got it going. So good leaders, I could parallel that to good leaders prioritize the well-being of employees, right? Not only the employees, but the customers, right? So you can take that dynamic from business to community to household as well. And that creates an engagement factor that actually helps create a positive work situation or culture. And then collaboration and innovation skyrocket. So what do you think is crucial? How what elements is crucial? Now you did that to yourself, right? It's easy to motivate ourselves. sometimes, right? Now, give us the crucial, balance of compassion and firmness and how you would go about translating that to contribute to a team dynamic as a leader.
Using, yeah, I guess, like I said, I found my niche. I brought in my compassion, which I have a big heart, but then I am firm because, we're dealing with money here.
Mhm.
Firm in processes, firm and making sure you let me know if there's an error because, we want to fix an error real fast because of system and flow and things. And you just got to find ways to be relatable to each of your team members, right? You're human just like they are. Find that balance, find that level, right?
Mhm.
Respect. One of the number one things is finding that respect with your team and build that team. Find the way, be the reason they want to come to work every day, right? If you come in and your employees are like dragging every morning and they're like, "Hi, good morning, y'all," or they just like walk right by and there's
Walking
no
on by.
communication or whatnot. You gotta, one, it could be personality too. There's some people that just are not morning people. I had a girl I worked with, she used to tell me every day she's not a morning. I worked with her 8 years, wasn't allowed to say good morning to her till 10:15. And we had this joke, and I would say, "Hi, Steph. Good morning" at 10:15, and it was like our thing. It's just you got to find your way to kind of relate with your staff, no matter whether you're a team leader or in a leadership role. So you just got to find your balance in your way. And again, some people have other problems or things, and that they don't want to bring them into the workplace. But if that's not their norm, then there is something wrong. Like you should automatically know that should be your light bulb that something's wrong. Let's reel it in and fix it before it poisons the situation. Um, the other thing, like, and you got to hold the team accountable, right? So
Mhm.
you also can't be a pushover leader either, right? You can't be, hi, well, this going to lunch every day or going to, birthday party or being intertwined with their personal lives. See, that's where some of the balance gets mixed. It
Okay.
works in some environments and it doesn't in others. I think you kind of need to be a little careful of with that because that's where favoritism also gets thrown out there. Well, she went to so and so's wedding, or he went to her son's birthday party, where you got to have that dividing line, right? So
Right.
you got to be careful of that as well. But it's tough. It is very tough being a leader. There's a lot more to think about in leadership than just managing the day to day, working on the numbers, making sure people are following the policy. It's a lot because you're not just responsible for your processes, you're responsible for the team underneath you as well. And that is where a strong trust has to be. Like for instance, they have to also trust you, trust the processes, but that goes two ways.
Mhm.
I don't like throwing that word. Micromanagement is a very strong word, and we all know what that means. But it really, micromanagement just means that you don't trust the team yet or that employee yet to do the process. Now, that's very common on a new hire situation, right? For the first 6 months, it's not micromanaging. They're making sure that you're following the processes, the things that need to go into place. After 6 months or whatever the probationary period is, most of it is 90 to 6 months. You shouldn't be micromanaged as employees refer to it, but it's really not. You're just making sure you build that trust factor and things are flowing and they understand the processes, right? You can't just say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna throw the baby in the pool and let them figure it out themselves." You gotta take the baby and put them in swimming lessons, right? You gotta get them
Mhm.
through the swimming lessons to kind of make sure they understand and find ways to relate with them. Like in property management, I had all my analogies laid out. People didn't understand what single family property management really involved. I said, well, it's like a trauma center. If you've ever been into a trauma center, that's what it's like. And they were like, oh, once they got in, they're like, wow, you were dead right. That's exactly what this is. So those are the things. And then, we dealt with the courthouses and, the courthouses I refer to as the circus, right? Not making light of evictions or anything like that. That's but I had to find ways to reduce the stress levels, right? It's very
Right.
tough going there and having to work with, you're on the other side of the fence with a resident or legal aid or something like that. I use it as, and then the paperwork was the popcorn, right? Paperwork was
Okay.
the popcorn. Do you have the popcorn? Everybody got their popcorn ready, going to the circus. And it just lightened the moment and it kind of took their mind off of it. And the way I did that is thinking about, when you go on stage and you're doing your first acting gig or singing and they say, just imagine everybody in the audience in their underwear. That was my thought process with that analogy. So those are the things, and I'll tell you, it made a world of difference. It made a world of difference in our field in finding the ways to explain things.
So great analogy with the popcorn and the audience in the underwear. Uh, I know a lot of people just be like, just imagine they're not there. A lot of times you can't really see them too well anyway because they're in the dark and you're all on the lighted stage
In
or
the light, yeah.
in a show environment. So, and you brought up a good point about trust too, because trust is very important. You know what I mean? I I I'm a stickler for trust issues. When you have that person that you know is late all the time, it's like you gotta when you become true to yourself in reality, you realize when you had that meeting in the back of your head, you're creating anxiety from that person being invited. Do I need to invite them? Do I need to tell them it's 2 hours earlier so they'll be there on time? Do I need to? Are they going to be on time? All that stuff is really toxic to yourself, and then it becomes a question of, well, does that deteriorate the trust to the point where you no longer value the connection or relationship in whatever scenario, right? So, a transactional leader can erode trust if we go back to that example you had about going ahead of time instead of sticking to the policy and contacting customers and making sure we had a plan for them, right? You had a plan for them because they'll stick to the perceived decisions based on compliance, like we said earlier. But the transformative leader is going to build trust by being transparent. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
really important. A lot of people try to hide transparency. Like when you look at the toxic workplace as defined by the AADA alphabet crew, right? They're scientists that they trust, right? They say one of the things that creates a toxic workplace is management withholding information. So when's the last job that the average person had where they felt like management was telling them everything? Okay. So great examples. And I like the fact of your analogies being used to simplify complex concepts so that they can be more relatable to your teams, right? And I
Right.
think you talk about that in your upcoming ebook, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, starting SCORE allowed me to, bring in my leadership. Most entrepreneurs, they're in leadership roles in general, right? That's kind of
Mhm.
what gets them from the corporate world, rock star mentality to the leadership and being an entrepreneur, right? They kind of go hand in hand. And so a lot were asking me about a lot of things. And so, you know what? It just inspired me to write my very first ebook, something I never thought I would do. I do a lot of motivational speaking privately with friends, family, people that know me. And I've been told so many times you need to write a book, start a podcast, have a YouTube, whatever. That was irrelevant to me. But knowing that I'm making an impact on some people that I've been working with recently, so you know what? I'll write my first ebook. So I wrote it's in the works to be published. It'll be on Amazon and it's called the Motivator Mindset: Unleashing the Leader Within. And it's just some of the techniques that I've used to help. And they're, again, not everybody can pull a sense of humor out. I can pull a joke up, from the top of my head based on the situation. And some people just don't understand analogies or use acronyms if you need to.
Mhm.
You got to find your niche as a leader. That's the number one thing. If you're in leadership, you're finding your niche. And that worked for me. And I figured, well, why not share it? Why not share a little bit of my sense of humor, lighten up the load a little bit, especially this time of year. We're 6 weeks down the path of year end. So in the financial world and sales world too, it's all about like, oh my gosh, we got 6 weeks left. We got to get the numbers up. We got to get everything cleaned up. There's so much involved. The pressure's on. But then you have, the holidays too, right? You've got
Right.
all these holidays flowing in. You got family coming in. You're trying to travel. that balance is tough, right? So that's going to make anybody in any position very much stressed out. So find your ways. So I am working on some lunch and learns, and my lunch and learn focus is don't be a Scrooge, right? Find your way to relate, because it reminds me of Penny with Penny, how she works with the Jim Carrey Scrooge version, where she just try what she does is she just keeps picking at him until he opens up, right? Because overall he's not a bad person. He just needed somebody to relate to him that allowed him to feel compassionate and respected. Again, that's how I took it, right?
Right.
Once he realized he had that in her, and it made him open up. And then his little heart went from little tiny to real big, right? So that's what you have to do. And that's how I relate to it as well, is, don't be a Scrooge. Find ways to bring compassion, but also be firm and hold accountability. It's that simple. Throw in some analogies, throw in sense of humor, because the lingo is different too, right?
Hmm.
The lingo is different from one industry or another. I mean, I'm learning that even in the financial world, people speak differently. I heard the word today, it was um, business architectural. And I was like,
Okay.
what in the world? And it's a lot what I do. I restructure financial health, right? I,
Right.
I I come in and I look at, what's going on with the people, what's going on with the systems, who's doing something manually, where are we missing processes we should be utilizing, modules, where are we missing the boat here? And that was just a very different. So you see, a word I have not heard of that defined the same thing of what I do is, as a financial health person, is business architect.
Business
So
architect.
interesting.
I
Yeah, business
I like that.
architectural.
I like
Yeah,
that. Um,
but
so
it's
that
not relatable though, unless you know that definition, right?
well, then now see, here's where we go with transactional leadership view or transformative, because the transactional leadership, maybe they say that it's not relatable, right? But the transformative, it's a gold mine, because that means that if you're going to have someone ask you, well, what is a business architect? When you tell them that, it gives you the floor to describe in detail and in depth now, because you're going to transform them from their prior state of not knowing what it was to learning about you, and then remembering that you're the one that told them what it was in the future. You're the first one that brought it to them. So that's totally transformative leadership process mindset. So put it out there, make them, a little bit out of their reach, to encourage them to step towards you in direction. Join us here in the solution. Don't see it as a disorder or disease, or you know what I mean? Join us
Mm-hmm.
here. Join us here. So I like the growing little hearts, right? That you mentioned earlier, because that's what we want to do with our teams at workplaces, employees in general. If you're in a leadership role of some sort, management role, in the community, and you want to foster that. There's going to be challenges when you're fostering the collaborative mindset among the team, which I encourage people to take a look at your book and see the value that you offer there, helping them with that. Um, you brought up some great points, and that leads me into saying, please, for the record, tell us about Scory. How'd you get into what started? How did that start? And ultimately, you provide a great service for the businesses, which ultimately supports the community. Talk about it, please.
Sure. So, Corey was a passion of mine in each career path that I've taken. I've learned that I found out I had a niche for finding money or streamlining process. So it was either indirectly or directly an impact to the financial line, right?
Mhm.
So in my learning, I just did it. People would say, "Oh, if there's a problem, go to Tina. She either knows how to fix the problem or she'll tell you somebody that could." And this goes back, over 2 decades, whether it was in my personal life or my professional life. If I would always be the one that would solve the problem, right?
Right.
I again, I'm going to use an analogy here. I consider myself to be that person that runs the marathon with my jugular slit and I'm holding my neck, but I'm still going after the problem, the solution to that problem, no matter what it takes, right? Because I need to fix your problem, right? I need to find out why are you hitting a brick wall? Where's the problem? Whatever it needs to be, whether it's, for instance, like filling out an application, language barrier, right?
Mhm.
Applying for disability, the terminology, they don't understand. It's too much information. Work on that. VA benefits. Your mind is so messed up because you're sick, you don't even know how to get into the process of VA. Applying for a mortgage, getting home ownership benefits. The list goes on and on of everything that I've done in my past, just helping. I had a girl when I first started training at a job when I was working at one of my positions in the textile field. And I was training with her, and she would sit there and flip pages one after another for every customer, for every style, for every product. And I'm like, you have to do this all day? And
Wow.
she's like, yeah. So because I had built an accounting ERP system, it was a $2.2 million system, a fuel accounting system at the time in 2004. I was like, wow. And from my networking with IT and other departments, I found out they had the solution to the problem. And so I went to this person and this person to make sure I had all my pieces right. And then I
Right.
took it to the IT director, the head of the IT, and I said, can we just do this? And he did it. And it took her job from 8 hours to 2.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, that those little things, that's what I can do. I can see things from a different perspective and make massive changes very quickly because of my background, because I've been fortunate to be able to get into a very versatile industry, from, government to real estate law to, um, textile, system structure, finance, things like that. So I can see things differently that have an overall than a one-dimensional perspective, not of just accounting. I can see things from other areas. So I'm able to help a lot more, and I'm able to find things. And I love to learn from other people too. I think that's, people say, oh, Tina, you're so smart. No, actually, I just love to learn. I love to learn. I love to
Yes.
pick people's brain and say, hey, teach me how you did that. And they'll say, okay, you teach me how you did that. I'm half a century now, so I've got a lot of knowledge under my belt. And I always heard knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. So learn what you can, because you never know when it could benefit you, or what can benefit someone else that's in a time of struggle or crisis or at a roadblock. How many people do you know, Pasha, that have a dilemma and they just like ball up, and they don't know how to handle it. They
Right.
don't know who to ask for help. And that is a horrible feeling to be in, not knowing who to talk to, where to go, or feeling like you're going to be judged. And I'm a very non-judgmental person. And I think that's why people open up to me a lot easier as well, because I'm not here to sit here and judge you. I mean, let me help you make money. That's my passion. Making you successful financially is my passion. I'm proof. I've owned a business before. My daughter's an entrepreneur. She's amazing. She started when she was 22. She's 28 now, and she's very successful. And I love watching her keep her passion alive while I'll do all the other stuff that she hates to do. And that's just my desire. And she's the one that was a lot of the forefront of getting me to do this. Said, Mom, you really need to help people, because I would help a lot of people along the way. She said, you really need to do this as a business. And my former boss too, he was a lot of, trying to get my passion and built and things like that. And it's a big leap. It's not easy to go from corporate world to yourself, to your own individual business. But I know I can make an impact and help a lot more businesses on a lot more levels, than just working in one career path. So that is the reason why I started SCORE, and I hope to work with a lot of businesses. I've already helped several already. Just few small changes. You wouldn't believe small changes and people think, oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time, or I don't have, nope, you wouldn't believe tiny, tiny changes make a world of difference. And my daughter will tell you the same thing. And that's the thing. Come out of the stigma. Let's be open-minded. Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. And then you make a decision. Just don't, cut it off right from the start, because you wouldn't believe what potential some business owners have once you start talking to them, and then the ideas come out and the light bulbs go off and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. Oh yeah, I've got that. Or yeah, it's just amazing. But the economy does put a lot more pressure on people. They want to grow, expand, but finances right now are tight, or investors are locking down some. Banks are, keeping credit limits, limited, not letting people, grow. So that there's some of that too. But don't wait. Here's my number one thing for anybody out there dealing with, trouble. Don't wait until you're so far gone that you're having to go to a financial advisor, right? Because or wait until your CPA gets a hold of your finances at the end of the year, because by then you've lost tax advantages, you've lost expense reclassification, you've lost collections that you're probably having to write off. And I actually have a lunch and learn, Pasha, on that I'm working on now. I just released it, is letting companies know the true damage that can happen if you want to expand or do an ad launch, or product increase, to change something, market something different, or just add more employees. You do
Mhm.
not realize that sometimes those write-offs, even if you have a good cash flow, they could affect you in getting investment, or credit expansion, or whatever else you need in loans, because you wrote off that money because you didn't write it off. By letting your aging build up, that doesn't look so good, especially if it gets high, because sometimes it's not true aging. For
Right.
example, I use an example, $50,000. You have a $50,000 aging on collections that people owe you money. You worked hard for that. Your team worked hard for that.
Right.
What are your strategies, right? So that's what I focus on first, is getting that money in, because most of you have money that you need to pay somebody else. You can't
Comes
pay
payable.
XYZ because you can't pay your accounts payable, your vendors, because you don't have the money coming in. So then what are you doing? You're damaging the customer service for your vendors, right? So it definitely is going to affect you, like you said earlier, about the damage that it causes if you're not looking at it from a future perspective, like you said, and you're just looking at it from today. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Do you know how many times I've heard that? We'll get to that. Audits and collections, audits and aging reports are the two things that struggle in some small to mid-sized businesses. It's once you get bigger into your company where you
Mhm.
can hire the team that manages that, right? But I've even worked in bigger companies under a contract where their aging reports were needed cleanup, right? They needed cleanup. And a lot of times it was either clerical error, duplicates were created, there was pricing issues. So your true aging was not really valid. But you're just going by that and giving it to your CPA at the end of the year, and they're plugging those numbers, and that's being stamped on your final P&L for the end of the year. So is your P&L truly healthy?
Right. And what lies behind that that maybe wasn't considered because we're just looking at the numbers. I think that's actually what brought us a lot closer together too, because our backgrounds separately in process optimization. I was a green belt at 3M, and you were in the financial and real estate world doing pretty much the same processes, just applied to different subjects. And I think that also hints on you said earlier where it was like, although it may feel like you're being micromanaged in certain instances, you got to recognize the
Mm-hmm.
value. Like a pilot program may be created and time studied and checked to verify and validate the entitlements, like what we thought was going to be actual was actually going to happen, or do we need to make tweaks, stuff like that. So that's part of a great vision and strategy, is that communication, because communication, transparency, like we talked about. So to let the people know the value, I think it was Simon Sinek as well too. He had a great thing about letting people know why. You know what I'm saying? And and
Oh
and
yeah.
and these strategies can actually be used for the household and community too. So like when you said talk together, see what can be done. The household and the communities could be equally as surprised once we start talking to each other and agreeing on the destination, Sinek. But the one thing that's amazing too, that was great mention, is the companies be like, hey, we need you to, your sales rep, and they're like, we need you to do $200,000 in sales each month. Thank you. And it's like, okay, we get the arbitrary number, but where's the why? And they said if you go the extra mile as a leader and tell them the why, it makes them more engaged and feel a part of it. And that's something I used to find great success with. I would actually, and go to the leadership above me and be like, look, man, we're going to do A, B, C, and D. All right. And if my team pulls this off by this date, I want pizza party, something, whatever it is, right? I want a pizza party for my team, 2 hours off in the conference room. We're going to watch a movie and we're going to chill, right? And they'd be
Right.
like, okay, because when you look at the ROI, it's like, oh shit, they ready to knock out like 5x. And all you want us to do is invest $450 if you're successful on pizza and a little bit of downtime. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So have
Well,
that communication, that
yeah.
transparency, then come back to your team and be like, look, we knocked this all out. I know it's a little extra, but if we do this, I'm gonna give you that. Or, and like Simon Sinek said,
Incentives.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Give them the incentive, give them the motivator, and
Yeah.
it takes that think
Boost
outside the box.
morale.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Think
Oh
outside the
yeah.
box. Go negotiate those terms with your leadership. And I think in the Simon Sinek example, it was the same. Let's say that the same voice saying it, and he just said, "Well, add on to it that the roof has been leaking, and if we do this, we'll be able to fix the roof on the building, so your paperwork stop getting wet at the printer." What I mean, give them that reason of why, and just give them that extra boost on so they know why we're doing it. Yeah, we don't want to do this shit, but when we get done with it, at least the roof will be fixed. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
vision and strategy, and that's what you deliver on a high level financially, optimizing processes, and it affects not only the business need, health, sustainability for the future, current state, the customers' quality of service, product rendered, quality of life for employees. That's a win-win-win. That's a touchdown for the whole community. Tina,
That is true.
anything that we missed that you want to add, or
Um,
or just what do you want to add at this point in time for the
yeah,
people?
let me kind of just kind of like sure, summarize what you said. Your why is true. I mean, anybody that has been under me, one thing I always say is I never said just do this. If there
Just
was a change in process or something, I gave them that why.
mhm,
Why? So it made them relate and understand it a little bit more than just being a directive, right? So you're right. That I learned that a long time ago. What plus it also allows you to develop, respect and understanding. There's where that, position over motivation of power really plays a difference, that why statement. The lunch and learns I'm offering, last 6 months, I've got one on the financial side, one on, don't be a Scrooge. Those are on my LinkedIn and my Facebook page. Let's spread some love and cheer a little bit. Let's boost up some laughter, some smiles, things like that. Even though it's tough for some people this time of year, anything I can do, 15 minutes of your time, that's all I'm asking for. And then more so with the write-offs, I want companies to understand the impact, because the hardest thing, talking with financial advisors and CPAs that I have been the last several months, so many companies wait until they're in such a crisis, when all
mhm,
you have to do is contact someone like me and just come in and give, you know, just a view, just the
right.
view, and see what can help you. Because don't the worst part is waiting to the end, because finance is I think like the first thing that a company fails for. The second is management. So don't wait to that. Find someone like me or contact me. I'm in the North Carolina area, but I do a lot of things via Zoom, or COVID taught us a lot of technology
Yeah.
utilization. So definitely do that. I can definitely change perspectives on a lot of things, and I just don't want to see another company fail, especially in this economic time. I definitely don't want to see that. So
And it's dropping like flies,
reach
North
out.
Carolina.
Yeah, reach out. It's important. Don't wait, and don't allow your pride to get to you, right? Open up. Be go to do some trainings. YouTube is a great training system for free. So
Mhm.
do that, don't feel like, if you're that person, that employee that's sitting in that desk doing the same job you did for 20 years, take the time during the holidays and just do some YouTube videos and maybe learn a few things different about your job that you may not know was there. Because sometimes leaders don't have time to train you new techniques either. So why don't you take the initiative to do that? And that's kind of, the thing that I always tell everyone, and that has worked with me is here's a YouTube video that'll really help you if you want to learn it. And some of them do it and some of them don't. But some of them love to learn. There's a lot of people that love to learn, but they don't want to be, they don't want to, they want to feel like you're not showing that they're uneducated or they don't have the knowledge or skill set. Anybody has the ability to learn. I don't care who you are.
I think I think you stumbled across a secret discovery, an unplanned detour in our journey in darkness, right? You said the second reason businesses fail is for management. And I think what we've done with this video, this conversation today, is clarified that the leadership is actually always going to be the first. It's going to be the first reason. The financial aspects is the byproduct. Like you said, by the time it shows
Right.
up on the financial world, the problems were back then on the road. So what I want to add to that is to again reinforce the value of what you do, Touchdown Tina, for the people, the community, and companies, because you see it more often in big companies. Like when you talk about businesses failing, they're dropping like crazy in North Carolina. And I'm sure they're probably nationwide or in the, the vicinity of North Carolina, so to speak, to be technically accurate. So I'm sure that's everywhere. But since we're here, we're seeing it local. Phone goes off with the news break. Company 4,000 people. Boom, like once a week at least. So what it is, though, what I want to point out is when you see it in large companies, because when they get so big that they capture whatever, all the market share is already pied up, right? Divvied up in pie slices. They can't, it's a lot harder for them to grow, right? So what do they do to appease the stockholders? Well, they start eating themselves. They start cutting this, cutting that. They cut the free water in the break room. You know what I mean? The coffee, no more coffee. Then they cut 2,000 people of staff, which affects 2,000 families' quality of life. And what are they doing? They're going to take the quote unquote savings and then slide it over to the profit section and call it profit when it was really just them eating themselves and self imploding, which is, a disgusting concept to then satisfy it visually based on an illusion that now they've gained this profit. Instead of just being transparent and say, look, we're maintaining right now. We're going to be flat. If you in with us as a stockholder, you're going to be in with us or not. No, they sacrifice the people. They sacrifice the coffee in the break room. Now the lady that said don't say good morning to me till 10:15, 10:30. She don't even want to hear it then because she ain't had her coffee till she go to Burger King at break time. So she don't want to hear it at all. You know what I mean? So now the culture at the workplace is shifted. Why? Because they're making cuts for various reasons that was the success of poor leadership, right?
Right.
So your book about leadership is powerful. Your health consultation is powerful. And I want the community to know, not only, even if you don't have a small business, if you what is it, HOA, call Touchdown Tina because she can help you find how to make more effective and efficient how you taxing the community. Oh, we're not gonna go there. How you those dues that you getting collected, you're gonna be able to do more for your people.
Oh
you know,
yeah. Oh
so
yeah. We can get into that.
there's a bigger picture of opportunity for you to actually provide service to help the nation arrive at the new destination as we're agreed.
Right. Agree. And I'll leave you with one last thing, Pasha, and all for leadership out there if we don't get to speak. Just remember a saying I heard a long time ago. It isn't the what you say, it isn't what you do, It is how you make them feel that will be remembered.
Mm.
And that memory is going to alter what you did and what you said in a different perception. So do be mindful how you make people feel, because even though you might not have said it this way or did it this way, it's because of how you made them feel that made them draw the analyzation of the outcome of how they are going to, return to you. So just be careful that. Remember, what you do, what you say, the perception of that will change with how you make them feel.
Well said. Appreciate you sharing that. Any closing remarks at this time?
No, I thank you for your time, and I wish you happy holidays. And anybody else, hang in there.
It's always the perfect day. I appreciate you being here, sharing this moment with us, and investing in the community in such fashion. And say bye to the people. Touchdown, Tina.
Bye, everybody.
I'm Pasha
Take
Paro.
care.
I'm Pasha Paro. Thank you for tuning. Enjoy.